Lobster Fra Diavolo, Omaris americanus, a North Atlantic lobster. This one from Maine. Some stunning tomatoes, little lemon to finish this dish if you need some acidity. Hot chilies, bouquet garni of oregano, basil, and parsley. Shallots, garlic, more basil in case I need it. And of course, a really nice white wine. I like to cook with this wine more than any other. It's a 2020 Quintarelli Merlot. I am nuts about it. Let's get going. First thing, a nice glug of olive oil. I am using one of my favorites. See if I can turn that bottle around with one hand. It's Moshi oil from La Boite. I just adore this olive oil. Bouquet garni from my garden, parsley, basil, and fresh oregano. Goes right on in. Shallot, garlic, and hot chili. Now, when it comes to hot chili, you can use a dried Calabrian chili, you can use red chili flakes, dried jalapeno, you can use anything like that. I happen to have a really hot fresh green chili from the garden, and I'm just gonna saute that mixture in there, and I got rid of a fresh hot chili I needed. It's gonna be, Fra Diavolo means in the style of the devil, so you want it to be spicy. This is a spicy tomato sauce that I'm cooking my lobster in. So the first thing you're gonna need is a strong knife. This is a petty knife that I have from Schoon. I like it because it's not whippy. It's very, very stable. If you use a thin whippy knife, you run the risk of cutting yourself. Now, some people like to stroke a lobster like this and put it to sleep. It sort of works, a little bit of a myth. Some people like to put them in the freezer for 5, 7, 10 minutes where they will go to sleep, but you also, even in a very microscopic way, start to freeze some of the lobster. I think the best way to dispatch of a lobster is to put it on a towel to collect any extra juices, put a towel end around each side of the lobster so you have something to grip onto. Look at the eyes of the lobster, which are right there, just about an inch in from the carapace. And then you can see this little hinge where the head attaches to the rest of the body. If you just take your knife and go straight down into the head like that, even though it's moving around, it's instantaneously and humanely killed. All right, let's butcher this lobster. I'm just gonna twist these legs and knuckles off. I like to get this done first and foremost. And obviously, we want the shells to cook. So I take the flat end of a cleaver and try to give it a good bang. Once you get a crack like that, you know it'll cook through and be easy to eat. Then I take my rubber bands off, set that aside. Same thing here. And by the way, some people with big claws like to cover it like that so that liquid doesn't go flying everywhere. And look at that, that is beautiful. And again, take the rubber bands off. These, easy to deal with. Next thing that I want to do is I want to twist this and remove the head and separate it from the tail. The head I'm going to cut in half. And I'm going to cut this tail, that's why I have a cleaver, into thirds, because it's that size lobster. A bigger lobster I would probably do, and yes, I have a sharp cleaver so I can use it like a knife. And then making sure all my liquid is there, I want to split the head. This head has all of the head fat in there. It's got the tamale, which is going to go in there. And there's a ton of meat. people can always see more meat in a lobster head when it's raw. So take a look at that, right? I mean, it's pretty pronounced. And all I want to do, once I've rescued my tamale, is just separate that, because those are great pieces. I could eat this with that tomato Fra Diavolo sauce all day long. So that's how you break that lobster up, that raw live lobster. I had euthanized it before, as I had shown you in the earlier piece of our video. And that's resting now, while this looks like it's exactly the right amount of time to add our white wine. Just a few glugs. And then once that's cooked off for a little while, we'll add our tomatoes, cook it for 20 minutes, add our lobster, and we're off to the races. So our wine has reduced by about 25%, and I'm just going to add my tomatoes. Now, in my recipe, it calls for cut tomatoes on puree. I have to tell you, these very, very, very thin-skinned filetti de pomodorino del Pianolo, del Vesuvio DOP, that I get from Gustiamo is amazing. I love them. Now, some people object to the skins, but these are so thin and the tomatoes are so sweet. I encourage you to experiment with them. So I just stirred that. We're going to let it come to a strong simmer, and I'm going to lower the heat to simmer it, keep it at a simmer for 12, 14, 15 minutes, something like that. Then I'm going to add the lobster. Then I'm going to put a lid on it. So I'm going to let the sauce come together and reduce a little and tighten up. Then I add the lobster, because all those lobster juices are going to add more liquid back in there. And you don't want this too soupy, but you don't want it too thick either. Well, this is almost ready, but I have some lobster juice from inside the body of my cooked lobster. So I'm just going to add that. Give myself a little bit more lobster flavor in this. So when the sauce is nice and tight, right, I add my lobster. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to gently, you can see, the liquid is all gone. I'm just going to gently stir this and mix. I don't want to break up anything. I just want to make sure that there's warm sauce everywhere, because now it's warm because the lobster went in there. And I'm going to leave that there just for a second. Put a lid on it and cook it for 10 minutes. Ooh, hoo, hoo, hoo. Wowza. Well, this is as good as food gets. So I'm just gonna gently stir this, break up the tamale in there so it seasons everything. I think it's perfectly cooked. I don't think it's undercooked or overcooked. I will say, if you remember how tight this was before, you're probably amazed at how one lobster added that much liquid back there, but that incredible shellfish flavor has now permeated that tomato sauce. Now, usually what I do is I put a little sauce in the bottom. The sauce is as important to this dish as the lobster is. And then let's make this a really regal portion, shall we? Wow, steamy. And then, yes, I love a little fresh chive in there, a little parsley. The fresh herb component just cannot be understated with this. And then I like to season this with just a little bit of lemon. Now, people may say, wait, it's tomato sauce. It's acidic enough. Yeah, well, it just got really sweet with the shallots, and I don't know, that's 12, 14 drops. I mean, that's all it is. You don't need more than that. But just that little bit of acidity just makes the sweetness of the lobster meat and the tomato sauce pop. So there you have it. Lobster Fra Diavolo. That's yummy. All right, let's see how this tastes. It's hot. Usually I do that, I catch the fork, but I'm in such food ecstasy, I couldn't even control myself. The shellfish tomato chive component is just unbelievable. It's just spicy enough. It's got great heat, slow burn. The poached lobster in there it's an alternative to steaming a lobster and dunking it in butter. You've done that enough. Make this.